Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Ohio, ready for some quick mental health facts? Let's go. Nearly 2 million Ohioans live with a mental health condition. In the U.S., more than 50% of people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime. Depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide. So why are some of us still stigmatizing people living with a mental health condition when we know all of this? Let's listen to the facts and beat the stigma. Ohio, challenge what you know about mental health at beatthestigma.org.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Rival Recon here on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Harry Sethi. And after an emotional day in the aftermath of Jurgen Klopp's announcement that he will leave Liverpool Football Club at the end of this season, the Reds produced a performance to give us plenty of encouragement and hope for the future as they battered Norwich City 5-2 at Anfield this Sunday in the FA Cup. On this pod, we'll be focusing our attention towards the Reds' next game in the league as they look to maintain their lead at the top of the Premier League table, welcoming Chelsea to Anfield on Wednesday evening. Joining me to discuss how Chelsea's season has unfolded to date and whether they're making progress and quickly enough under the management of Mauricio Pochettino, I'm happy to welcome on Tom Overend from Chelsea fan channel, The Chelsea Social. Welcome on, Tom. Good to speak with you.
Yeah, good to speak with you too.
Chelsea, so I was thinking back to, obviously this pod comes in pretty regularly, looking ahead to the next game Liverpool are going to play, trying to get a bit more insight into what's going on in the world of our opposition beyond what we might see on Match of the Day or some of the headlines, some of the Twitter sort of banter that flies around about every club. But the Chelsea match, I'm thinking right back now to the start of the season. The opening game, obviously Chelsea-Liverpool away at the Bridge. I think Liverpool fans weren't too sure what to think of what they were going to see from their own team. I think Chelsea again were a little bit mysterious about what we were going to see from this Chelsea side with the of course so many players to select from. I remember that being quite a tough game. I remember being actually quite happy with the point in the end, given how Liverpool played on the day and sort of hadn't quite figured out that defensive midfielder sort of situation at that point. And I remember a load of people ribbing me afterwards and saying, well, yeah, you thought it was a good point. Look how Chelsea are playing then. It's been a turbulent season, right? It's been, definitely a big project that Pochettino is working on. I just wanted to ask you now, I guess, what were your expectations at the start of the season? Because we haven't chatted before about Chelsea. And where is your head at now in terms of sort of how the season's progressing?
So for me, it was always about, some form of European competition and an improvement in the league. I wasn't one of these. I saw it flying around the press, talking about Chelsea pushing for top four. I thought that was ridiculous. We had, a really, really dreadful season last year, and it was always going to take time to rebuild, find the right coach, and slowly get better and slowly get up to a good level. And I think, Liverpool under Klopp and Arsenal under Arteta were definitely the kind of blueprint for that. So yeah, I was very much in the mold, top 6, top 7, some good cup runs, and let's see where that takes us. That was very much kind of my line of thinking when it comes to Chelsea this year. And weirdly, at the moment, it kind of feels like we're almost at that point, but it hasn't come maybe the way I expected it to.
What do you mean by that? Is it more around sort of the areas in which Pochettino has chosen to prioritize, like building the squad, or sort of like how you've gotten to this stage?
I think more in the sense of kind of the way the season panned out. I thought we'd see a kind of much smaller pool of players. We would see maybe us improve in form quite slowly. But the way it was, the start of the season was all right. And then they had, Chelsea had a bit of a blip kind of September, October, did well enough, then had a bad November, then have started to recover and get a lot better in December. I think we only lost one game. And, in January as well, I think we're actually on the best run of form in the Premier League now. So, I thought maybe we'd be around 6th, 7th, 8th all season. We haven't been, but actually our form in the last kind of month or so is kind of pushing us up towards that, kind of up towards those positions.
Absolutely. And in terms of how Pochettino has approached it, I mean, you said maybe you were expecting to see a smaller group of players for him to maybe really zone in on like what his best team was. I think given how many players there are to choose from, I suppose that's quite a difficult thing to identify quickly. It's taken him some time to sort of figure out who works in what roles and who complements each other. Have you been surprised by the players that have sort of found themselves in the team on a regular basis? And for those who haven't watched much of Chelsea, I mean, who have those been? Have there been any sort of like pretty obvious like tactical switches from Pochettino this season that you've noticed as well?
So, I mean, tactically, I've been surprised at how kind of stubborn I think Pochettino's been. He's refused to go to anything like a back three. He's very much stuck with a kind of 4-2-3-1 kind of or 4-3-3 kind of shape. Whereas I remember at Tottenham, he would switch around shapes a lot, trying to fit the mold of his players. And I mean, when it comes tactically, the thing that surprised, I think, irritated the fan base most was Levi Colwill at left back. I think, people saw him as one of the best centre backs in the Premier League last season and are questioning why Poch has moved him to the left back position. I think people are maybe surprised about how much Axel Disasi's played. I mean, a lot of people, myself included, saw him as a pretty pointless signing when we had Trev Chalobah. But actually, I mean, he's come in and featured a lot. And because of the injury problems, he's had to play right back. And it's not been ideal a lot of the time, but he has shown some kind of promise. He's not the quickest, but he has got good defensive ability. And as we saw in the League Cup semi, he scored an absolutely brilliant striker's finish against Middlesbrough. So those would be the kind of main things. I think tactically, the back line has been the area that kind of has been the most novel, albeit a lot of that kind of because of injury. Midfield, I mean, Enzo and Caicedo, it was always going to be kind of the pivot that Poch was going to go with. Conor Gallagher's featured a lot. I mean, for fans like myself, I mean, I always wanted him to, and I think he's been very good, albeit kind of in some games not always getting it right. And then forward, further forward, Cole Palmer obviously has been a surprise of the season, was brought in by, from City. And I think that was supposed to be maybe a fourth or fifth choice, but actually he's come in and he's now first name on the team sheet, certainly in the attacking positions.
Yeah.
And I guess Nicholas Jackson going off to AFCON has given Poch, a little bit of a problem because Jackson was very much the first string striker and he's kind of fluctuated between Brozier at false nine and Brozier at 9 and Palmer at false 9. So that kind of a whistle-stop tour of the kind of Chelsea tactics.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. I think, as you mentioned, the the pivot of Caicedo and Fernandes seemed the most obvious one that sort of Chelsea would be building towards, given all the efforts put in to sign those two players. And I'm interested. I think, it takes these players, despite how good they might be, time to settle in terms of how, like, understanding how they complement their new partner in that sort of role. It's been interesting, obviously, seeing that pair of McAllister and Caicedo split up and integrating into different teams and different roles. Of course, I think Caicedo is obviously still playing in a double pivot, but getting used to playing with the likes of Fernandes, and that's taken him some time. I've been surprised at how shaky Caicedo looked in early parts of the season, and McAllister as well, like being asked a lot of the time to play the six when he was fit earlier in the season, and seemed to struggle with that. I think really because the team for Liverpool just wasn't very compact, and we hadn't really figured out how to best set up the midfield to give him some support, because he's not a out and out defensive midfielder. So it's only been since Curtis Jones has come into the team, I'd say, that we've really started to see him thrive in that role, be comfortable, and know he's got support, and he can be a bit more progressive. And Endo as well as the Japanese defensive midfielder who's away at the moment. Of the new signings, just to start with there, because I think there's so many players we could talk about. Palmer's stood out to me in many games I've seen at Chelsea this season as being very un-Chelsea this season, in that I think one thing I've noticed from Chelsea is a lack of composure in certain games, and sort of this like frenetic sort of energy about the side, so much youthful like enthusiasm about the side, obviously. But this guy, gets his foot on the ball, head up, looks around, assesses the options, that doesn't necessarily always think it has to be 100 miles an hour. Speak about sort of him and the other new signings, Caicedo, how he's taken time to settle. And who's done better when it comes to sort of settling in.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Well, the thing with Cole Palmer, it feels like it's a Man City player, pretty much with a Chelsea team. The way he's so, as you say, so decisive. He, mentally, it feels like he has the game locked in. And the guy's 21 or 20 or 20 or 21. And he's shown he can play anywhere on the front line. I think he's played number 10. He's played right wing. He has played as a false nine. And I think if I were to criticise him, that'd be the area he struggled. He struggles when he's not got time to think, when he gets a kind of very quick balls in, quick chances. But on the whole, he's been exactly what Chelsea have needed in attack. And I think actually Raheem Sterling being at the club helped him too, helped him settle, coming in the same direction. And people thought that would take time, but it was, I think what's become clearer is that actually had City maybe put him in the shop window a bit more, they actually could have got a lot more money for him. And I sit here thinking 40 to 45 million was an absolute steal for a player of his ability. He's never taken a penalty before this season, but he's become our penalty taker, hasn't missed one all year. So, as far as acquisitions go, he's absolutely fitted like a hand in a glove. Cole Palmer. Caicedo, I agree, struggled initially. He had an absolutely nightmare debut at West Ham. I was there that day, and it was it was really, really unfortunate, actually. And he did slightly struggle in the team at the start, but actually I would say since perhaps November, he's been absolutely outstanding. Really, really good. Run the midfield. I think perhaps there are some people that maybe question or are unfamiliar with his role and will say he's not, he doesn't play the kind of sitting role that perhaps he did at Brighton a bit. He actually does advance maybe more. But as far as he's concerned, I think a lot of our fan base are very surprised the media haven't picked up on his improvement yet. And I mean, I don't know what it will take for that narrative to change around him, but he's certainly someone who we're not concerned about. He's been really, really good. But the kind of signing that I would say is even better than Palmer has actually been in goal. Georgi Petrovic, since he's come in for Robert Sanchez, has been absolutely brilliant. And for £15 million, is making amazing reflex saves. He looks really good on the ball, and he's just a really, really good presence and is assertive with the defence. And I think actually that's been a far better goalkeeper signing than Robert Sanchez, who hasn't been bad, but has made mistakes with the ball at his feet and maybe, isn't as good of a shot stopper. I mean, he wasn't brought in for that. So, yes, I mean, that would be the kind of four of our main acquisitions. I think those are the three which I'm looking at and who I think have fitted the best.
And in terms of the other players that have found themselves being integral cogs in this team that Pochettino is building, you mentioned Gallagher, and I'd be interested to sort of see how he's proved most effective and sort of what role he seems to have proved most effective for Chelsea. And also, I've not been super into this story, so like any apologies if I get the details wrong, but I'm hearing these rumblings around the need to potentially sell somebody like Conor Gallagher to generate, was it funds or something to do with FFP or something like that. He's very often been the captain this season, right? And very often been one of the most impressive players. Obviously, a big attachment to the club. Like, am I off on that? Was that at one point a suggestion? I mean, what's the status of that now in terms of his future at the club?
I mean, I think it's one where Pochettino has been as vocal as can be to say, we want him to stay. He's very important to my plans as coach. And Poch clearly sees him as a key player. But the issue is that the club seemingly don't really want to agree a new deal. I think they see this summer especially as an opportunity to get him out for pure profit. I don't think they see him as a long-term kind of fixture, which I think is absolutely mad. If not as a first-team player, certainly a squad player. And we're now seeing briefs similar to what we got with Mason Mount about the fact that his wage demands are too high.
Yeah.
And that a new deal is no closer. Now, that surprises me, given that Connor's publicly said how much he wants a new deal, how much he wants to stay at the club. And something's not quite right. I think it perhaps is one of the sporting directors, maybe Winstanley or Paul Winstanley or Lawrence Stewart, pushing that one. From what everyone's hearing, Chelsea are not in immediate trouble with FFP, that it's not something to worry about. So I think it perhaps is one where they want a more glamorous signing and see Connor as kind of low-hanging fruit, 40 or 50 million pounds that they can put towards that. And it's everything, if I'm honest, I hate about the approach, and I hate about kind of an ownership wanting to define themselves through buying players. But from a kind of impartial point of view, that is what I think they're trying to do, sadly.
Yeah, let's stay on the ownership just for a little bit there, because I think, there's been so much turbulence, right, with the ownership situation and sort of the direction. It feels like they're being pulled in multiple different directions, and I do wonder. And I don't know enough about the Chelsea hierarchy, so do tell me if I'm wrong here. But I do wonder. It seems like there seems to be a little bit of a vacuum of like a footballing director that has like some sort of a vision in mind. That's not what you just mentioned, right? Of we can buy all these players, all the best young talent in the world, and just bring all of them, bring all of them in, and integrate all of them, and everything's going to be fine. Harmony will be amongst the squad. We'll get results. I wanted to just get your view on like how the ownership is currently operating. I mean, we're a good chunk into the season now, and it's their second season here. Second season as owners, I believe, right? Unless I'm forgetting anything, but I mean, like, what's your opinion on how the ownership is operating, and any key developments that you've seen from it this season, and how do you think the fan base feels towards it? I mean, there's not necessarily huge amounts the fan base can do in this at this moment in time, but it'd be great to get your perspective on that as well.
I mean, I think with the ownership, they still haven't got the formula right. I think they have the best intentions, but they've not found the model that they want to use to become the kind of top tier club that obviously the fans want, the owners want, and everyone around the club wants. And last year, it was very much a kind of situation where it was almost too many cooks that spoilt the broth. So they hired in Christopher Vival. They brought in Lawrence Stewart, I believe, from I can't remember who they brought in Lawrence Stewart from. I think Tottenham. They brought in Paul Winstanley from Brighton on the footballing side. They brought in Joe Shields from Southampton, who I think was key behind the Lavia deal. And basically, what it's meant is that there have been so many different football people that have been brought in. And I'm not sure they all know what the role is, who's in charge of what, who the acquisitions go through. I know that for some signings, actually, Baghdad Barley, who is in among the top owners at Clearlake Capital, has had to personally intervene and get a deal done. I believe it was Enzo Fernandez. And so it feels just very chaotic. But the intentions are right, and they've put their money where their mouth is in that regard. They have been willing to spend. They have been willing to invest. They do want grand plans for a new stadium. And while there are some fans that don't like the fact that we've gone from an owner who didn't really run the club for profit to an owner who is kind of treating the club like a business, although I think that is simplistic. Although this owner is intent on maximising revenue, I suppose, I actually think their intentions are very good. And from an ownership perspective, right, and it's the same for a club like Liverpool, it's always going to be in their interest to get the team successful on the pitch. And I don't doubt that it will come. It's just been a very, very frustrating season and a half in that regard. And a lot of people take that out on, I mean, Todd Bowley is name dropped a lot, but I mean, it's not actually him that's involved in this. So yes, it's a funny time. The ownership is still in that period where fans and everyone are giving them time to judge. But yes, there have been a lot of grumblings about how the team have been in recent months.
And if you were to look at the season and just have a look through the fixtures, I mean, are there particular games this season that you think you'd point to where you go, well, that's a good example, right, actually, of us seeing more of a vision of what Pochettino is trying to build here at Chelsea in terms of the performance, how the team played, the players that were actually on the pitch. And are there other games that you point to where you think, well, this is also a great encapsulation of the season in terms of what's going right and what's going wrong, and the work that's still there to do?
Yeah, there have been so many examples of both. I mean, unlike last season, and the thing that's been most encouraging is that we have had some excellent performances against the top teams this season. I actually think the game against Liverpool opening day was a very good example.
Yeah,
I know.
very good.
I know you guys were obviously not as strong as you are now, but we went toe for toe. I think you could see what Poch was doing with Enzo in the more advanced positions, Gallagher in the pivot, Carney there as well, who I think is going to be very key. Now he's back from injury, Carney Chukwuemeka. But actually, the two games that sum up, I think, Chelsea under Poch in terms of the good things were two draws as well. The 2-2 draw against Arsenal, where we did everything right. I think we played Arsenal off the park for 75 minutes. But then inexperience showed among a young squad. Robert Sanchez made some silly mistakes, but actually the team was attacking really well. And Arsenal, and I spoke to them after the game. I spoke to some of my colleagues at DR Sports and AFTV saying, they were very, very lucky to get a point that day. And the following weekend at home to Manchester City, again, we were absolutely outstanding and totally deserved a 4-4 draw with them, where we kind of went punch for punch. So those are the 3 games where I look at really encouraged. I mean, Cole Palmer played a key role in those. Enzo Fernandez too. I'm trying to think of kind of specific players. I mean, Conor Gallagher definitely in those big games provides the energy. In terms of the less good games, the one that stands out that the fan base got angry at was actually away at Manchester United, lost 2-1 against a really, really average team. And I'm sure it was similar for Liverpool, actually drawing 0-0 to that side. You just think, how did we not pick up 3 points? And to lose and to play as poorly as we did, I think also just showed inexperience. And fans are kind of prepared to give leeway, right? So when we lose at home to a low block because we can't break it down and they score the 1 counter, people get frustrated, but we all accept that is going to happen. But when you lose to a team like that, and and you haven't created the chances, you just played poorly, that's when fans kind of get really dejected around Chelsea this year.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think it makes sense as well. I think there's from the games I've seen, there's been some real signs of promise, and then you can see maybe the downside to having so much youth within a group, and if there are senior players in the group, perhaps not in the positions or not at the stages in their career where they're able to really have the influence that they may used to have had. I think on the team, I think it almost needs a couple more senior players. Well, this is my opinion anyway. In the squad, just to tie things together. And when there are moments when a game is really going against you, just realize, okay, there's ways to manage this. Let's not lose our heads. We're in a good position. I still think, for me, one of the most maddening games I watched for Chelsea this season was of the Tottenham one, with the sending offs and the high lines, and I'm not sure what you were what you were thinking on the sidelines. And I know these are young players who've got room to develop, and you don't want to criticize them. But I was watching Nicholas Jackson, and it's just like. It's just imagining you're playing football with your mates on a pitch on Sunday, and just you could see Sterling trying to say, "Make the straight run, just make the straight. I'll give it. You'll get a tap in. Make the straight." And then it eventually happened. Of course, he gets his hat trick and ends up going well. There's been some games where it must be been really frustrating because you can see the promise and you can see the quality, but it's I guess similar to what you're talking about with the formula off the pitch. It's not quite been tied together just yet. Be interested in your opinion on the forwards, because I think that's a curious part of this Chelsea team. We've seen them struggle for goals in recent seasons, and try and figure out what the solution is to that sort of formula. I'm not saying it's one player or another, but what have you made about sort of how Chelsea have looked to tackle that problem? Because it was a problem in previous seasons, right? Getting enough goals, posing enough attacking threat in the final third.
Sure. So just as a kind of opening stat to that to show how poor it's been, our League Cup game against Middlesbrough, I know we scored 6, but we actually equalled our tally of goals for all of last season. So we scored the same number of goals as last season by January this year, which is a crazy stat. I mean, but it shows firstly how poor we were last year, but also how much we actually have improved in attack this season. And Cole Palmer's approaching 10 goals. Nicholas Jackson, I think, has got 8 in the Premier League. So more, I think, than some people given credit for. And I think actually one of the players, and I should have mentioned him when we spoke about new signings, Nicholas Jackson has showed so much promise. I think his hold-up play has been really excellent, and he's really kind of developing as a player who's into developing well with Palmer. They're producing some really good links. Mudryk similarly, with Jackson both building, playing really nicely. And yes, the goals haven't come. And yes, you could probably watch a failed comp of him scuffing a load of chances. But he's a player who I think is a big reason why we've scored the same number of goals as last season by now. Yes, we might not, he might have scored more Premier League goals himself, but actually he's allowed so many of our other attackers to do well that, he's been very important. Mudryk's the player who I think people in our fan base and also pundits slightly may be concerned about, because he has the pace, he's got all the raw talent, but he doesn't seem to have the kind of football IQ that many would have at his age. He doesn't make the right passes, he doesn't have the right knack of building play, but he has improved a lot in this regard this season. He's got his first Premier League goals, and I mean, he's someone where there'll be one game where he'll really show promise and show that he's turned the corner on that. But then he'll have games like the recent game, I think it was against Middlesbrough actually, where he was just really, really poor, just didn't know what to do on the ball and off the ball. So, I mean, in attack, it's a funny one, right? But actually, I'd say in that area, we've seen maybe the most improvement among the team. And it's not been perfect, but we scored 4 goals against Tottenham, 4 goals against Man City, 2 against Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's been, as it always has been for us, the low blocks, the problem. So if a team comes and plays a 5-3-2 or a low block 4-3-3 or kind of 4-5-1 block, we still really struggle to break those down. And I think that is an experience thing as well.
I think so. I think temperament becomes really, really important in those games. I think just keeping composure, moving the ball around. I think it's something Liverpool taken time to figure out again. I'd say this season was obviously had a really poor season by their standards last season, and I think it's taken some time for some of the new players to figure out a way. I think people like Curtis Jones have been key to that. And Nicholas Jackson, I think interesting hearing you talk about him there. Similar kind of criticisms towards obviously Darwin Nunez. I'm sure I've not seen any failed comps for Jackson. I'm sure there's similar ones for Nunez floating about. Given how football is digested these days, very often on.
I hate it, by the way.
No, it's there's nothing more satisfying than obviously the Schadenfreude of actually that those players scoring like crucial goals. I mean, I think Jota doesn't get that a lot, but I think in the last game against Bournemouth, I think it was complete air shot to one chance and then scored with the second touch, and it was that you had the jeering met with the finish at the bottom corner in the space of 5 seconds. If you could get an equivalent of that online, it'd be very comforting. But it's remarkable how the level of discussion at times is it's really in the gutter, to be honest. But I mentioned that you hear that's the area that you think has improved the most, really, the attacking. And so, we look at Chelsea at the moment. I think where are Chelsea? The ninth in the league at present, I believe. Where are your expectations for the remainder of the season? You told me where they were at the start and to what you were expecting and the size of the job that you felt that Pochettino had on his hands. Deep into cup competitions here, into a final, the chance of silverware. Where are your expectations here for the remainder of the season? What would be a successful season in your view for Pochettino this time around? Is that league positioning the all important factor?
I mean, so for me, Chelsea, I think we are in ninth, but we're about maybe 3 points off the European places.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of sixth or seventh. So, and I say that's been because of our December form. Pochettino teams tend to get better as the season progresses. I mean, I remember when we were in a title race with his Spurs team, and they hardly lost a game after January till about the period right at the end of the year when they bottled the league. But, his teams do appear to improve. And I would hope that we could get top 7, top 6, and beat you in the Carabao final. That would be the best case. Mm-hmm. I'm not one of those who kind of was expecting top 4. I think there have been some briefs that the club were hoping for that. I mean, I think I would ask what planet those people are on, because it was never going to be that easy. So the season's gone, I would say, about the way I expected it to. I'm not somebody who was here expecting it to be a quick turnaround, quick job. So from now, actually, my expectations haven't changed. We'll be underdogs in that Carabao final, but I do think we can win it on the right day. Our best performances have come against the good sides, and I don't see why that wouldn't be possible at Wembley too. So it's similar. I mean, if we're in a position where you guys are competing in Europe this year, but in the Europa League, ideally, I'd prefer it if we were in the Europa League rather than the Conference League. But then again, if we were to enter the Conference League and win it, we'd be the first team to win all 3. So all 3 of the UEFA competitions. So it's one where if we come out of the season with any kind of European football, whether that's through winning the Carabao Cup or the league position, that would satisfy me. And if we see an improvement against low blocks, improvement in results against top 6, maybe changing some of those draws into wins, I'll be really, really happy with the season. It was always going to be a frustrating and inconsistent one, but we've improved and there have been some real high points as well, I would say.
I think it's going to be interesting, the next run of fixtures, actually, because just having a look, obviously, you're talking about this positive run in December and the new year, and you can absolutely only beat the sides that are put in front of you. I think that's what you have to do. But I think it's been, based on the fixtures I'm seeing here, it's been a nice run in terms of sort of the teams Chelsea have played against, but you're still there to need to beat them. A couple of good cup performances in there as well, just to boost the confidence you were talking about with Middlesbrough, and also the win over Preston in there as well. Next up is obviously Liverpool, then there's Wolves, then there's Palace, City. I think the Tottenham game's postponed now, and then there's the cup final. So it'd be interesting to see sort of how, as you say, the Pochettino teams do tend to get stronger throughout the season. I think it's going to be interesting. You don't imagine many of those sides are going to be playing low block defenses. Well, perhaps Palace will against yourselves. So more chance for the attack to really sort of show how they're progressing. And on that, what are you expecting? I mean, just briefly around how Pochettino is going to approach this trip to Anfield on Wednesday. Liverpool clearly in. I say the best form they've been in all season. One of the big positives of today, I thought, the 5-2 win against Norwich was just the returning players. Obviously Robertson back fully fit, Trent back in the team, Szoboszlai back in the team. Some young players there playing really well, Darwin and Jota in the goals. How do you expect Pochettino to approach it? Again, knowing that Liverpool are going to be playing that high line, playing the way they always do. Chelsea in a good moment as well. How do you expect this game to unfold?
Yeah, so first I'd just say I agree with you. You can only beat what's put in front of you. A lot
Absolutely.
of those games in this good run we wouldn't have won last season, and in previous years we've really struggled with. So it's just been encouraging to get a bank of wins together.
For
We
sure.
didn't have it to, we haven't had a really nice run of form in what feels like ages. So I suppose I do want to put a bit of gloss on that because we did have a nightmare run earlier in the season. Tottenham, Arsenal, City were all in about the space of a month, and we did
Yeah, yeah.
pretty well. We actually did pretty well in those games. Winning one, drawing two. So yeah, in terms of Liverpool, it'll be interesting. But the way Poch tends to face the big sides, I mean, he did it at Spurs and he's done it so far with us as well. I think he'll just go punch for punch. I think he will try and set us up well defensively. Back four that's going to be tight and tidy, but it won't be us low blocking and trying to play for a 0-0 or the way maybe we did do last season. It'll be very much us trying to go for a win, take you on at your own game, and at Anfield that's risky business because it is just a fortress and first game, of course, after Klopp's announcement in the Premier League. So, but I can't see that changing. I think our best chance of getting a result against Liverpool probably is just to play an exciting game, play our way. Whether we can execute. Maybe if your defence is a bit ropey on the day, maybe we can come out with a draw or win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an intriguing one. And yeah, I think this, speaking to some of the fans and some of the guys I was talking to on the podcast today about, the Norwich match, and you just, obviously try and move back onto business as usual and focus on the games. That's what you hope the players do, certainly. But yeah, clearly an emotional time, I think, for Liverpool fans, certainly for myself. I'd be happy to admit it. It's obviously the greatest manager I've watched in my time following the club, and probably actually more upset about losing the bloke than the manager, to be honest, because he's obviously been a terrific sort of figure to have as a custodian, I guess, for the club. Just interested in your opinion, really. Given that it is, I suppose, big football news whenever somebody leaves a club like this, and such a big figure in Klopp ultimately leaving the Premier League. Your thoughts on that decision that he made, and just anything that springs to mind.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think when it comes, with Jurgen Klopp, what I would say first and foremost is respect to him for being one of the all-time great Premier League coaches. He did break that long-term duck in terms of Liverpool winning the Premier League, won the Champions League as well. I did find it very interesting when I saw, admittedly, a Chelsea account tweet, I think our honours since Klopp joined Liverpool have been almost identical to yours, which I think is interesting, given that you're kind of the definition of a club that was well run around a manager with stability, and we're the absolute opposite of that in almost every way. But yes, I mean, my first thought, and I tweeted it out pretty much as soon as it happened, was I have complete respect for him doing it at this time. You know, I think there's a phrase, you always want to go out with people asking, why are you, rather than why don't you? He clearly feels he's served 8 years, and after that, he wouldn't be at his peak. He wouldn't be able to, he wouldn't have the energy in the tank to do as good of a job. And he's decided to leave while his reputation is still as high as it's ever been, and with the club still adoring him. And I know that Liverpool isn't the kind of club that would turn on a coach.
No.
The way that Arsenal fans did by the end of Wenger. But Klopp hasn't given you guys that problem, and he's left with you guys on an upward trajectory. He's rebuilt your squad this season, and will hand over a team that kind of knows what it's doing. It's at ease with itself, and I mean, the person who takes over that team will be one of the luckiest guys in world football, I think, frankly. And I was surprised to see the reports that there hasn't been a replacement kind of lined up, and that, especially given that Klopp told the club in November.
Yeah, I don't know how much to believe about that, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised they'd announce it now without that. I agree that it's not necessarily true because somebody, a reporter said so, but it just seems a slightly strange time to announce it in terms of this season if there hasn't been a replacement lined up. But I suppose, you're still in all 4 competitions you started the season in, and it'll give your players some extra desire and energy to win them, possibly, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the hope. I think that's certainly my hope, is that it's. I mean, what greater motivation can you have than to sort of put everything into these final games in all competitions? And I think similar to yourself, I was speaking to someone yesterday about it, and I think it's so rare to see people in these positions. I mean, not just football, but just people in positions like this, when they're representing institutions, to go out in these terms, really, into them not being sacked, not being, their reputations being dragged through the mud, or it's not working the way in which they had to be asked to leave, or things go stale. I think it's quite weird to see somebody go, no, I'm a custodian of the club, and as you'll see, we're in a good way now, so I feel comfortable about handing it over to somebody else who might do a better job longer term. I think it's just really weird to actually see someone do that, because people basically never make that decision in most walks of life. It seems that way anyway, right? If the news, so it is odd to see it, because some of the greatest managers in the game have ultimately ended up being sacked. But I think he calculated that was never going to happen for him, so he had to make the decision.
Literally, I mean, I'm someone who I follow world leaders, politics. I'm obviously a lover of football, and it's so interesting that it is so hard when you have the power that Jurgen Klopp had at Liverpool, but also, any political position or even a big corporate role. But he, as I say, he's got the timing right. He's gone out with his stock so high still. People asking, why are you going? Not, oh, we were thinking you were going to go, and I just think it is such a good saying that he has gone with people asking, why are you, rather than any suggestion, why don't you, you're old, none of that. And I actually think it's absolutely masterful how he's done that. And, it's going to mean that he's going to have an extended goodbye, but that gives the club time to find out a succession plan. I can't see it being like Manchester United after Sir Alex, for instance. But as I say, I think Liverpool can avoid the kind of situation of Arsenal and Forest after Wenger and Clough left. I mean, Clough and Wenger let their reputation slide to an extent where Forest got relegated in Brian Clough's last season, and obviously Wenger, Arsenal sixth place and with a squad in disarray, and you'll avoid the United situation of Ferguson going out on a high, sure, but with a squad that wasn't, that was on the decline, and I'd say they still haven't really recovered from that. I think Liverpool can avoid both of those. So I think it's masterful how he's handled it, honestly. And I hate to say it because I don't like praising rivals, and Liverpool are one of our biggest rivals. So, yeah.
No,
I don't think we'll have that problem at Chelsea, though. I don't think we'll ever have a manager long enough to step down.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I asked the question, because again, obviously, like you think about just how incredible Mourinho was, and some of the greatest managers in the world, and they've all ended up in similar situations from one point. So yeah, he seems to have finessed this very well, Jurgen. So let's see if he can really get the fairy tale ending, at least in a couple trophies. That would be lovely. I'm up to Anfield a few more times this season anyway, so I'll be enjoying every last bit of it. But Tom, really want to thank you for coming on to the pod and giving us your perspective on Chelsea, and where we're fair to them, where we're not, perhaps a bit unfair to them, and sort of the progress that Chelsea have made this season. And there'll be, I think, we know there's at least 2 more games against each other this season. I'm hoping they're not going to be these draws that we seem to just endlessly be in a cycle of. Certainly the cup final, that they are always entertaining games. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your perspective.
No problem at all. But I can't wish you guys too much luck.
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, we've been all good, all cordial throughout the pod. But yeah, I'd expect nothing less when it comes to game day. Obviously, wish you the worst for those fixtures. But yeah, when's the next time you play United? Where's that? Oh, City. Okay, well, hope you beat City on the 17th next month. then
don't remind me that we have to go there.
Hope you batter United. That'd be great in April. That'd be lovely. But again, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No problem, mate.
And just to wrap things up, all the listeners here who've been tuning into these Rival Recons this season, there's one more in a short space of time, obviously ahead of the Arsenal game rather, on the Sunday. It's a quick turnaround after the Chelsea one on Wednesday. That's going to be fun, particularly important for me and some of the North London family in my life that game goes the similar way of the most recent trip to the Emirates. But do tune in for another pod that will be out just ahead of that game with the trip away to the Emirates.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
At Kroger, shopping with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in-store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high-quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win for busy families everywhere. Start your cart today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More, Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.